I'm here in kind of a desolate, unbuilt, unimproved office park lot in Carlsbad, California, and I'm here looking at the Focus Jarifa Fat. Tried to find some terrain that would, allow me to demonstrate what these fatter tires can do. The name is a little bit misleading to me because these aren't true fat bike tires. They aren't 4 inches wide. They're the new sort of plus size 2.8, and I actually see a lot of 3-inch wide, but they're 650B, so 27.5 diameter, 2.8, sort of the circumference right here that's actually giving you that improved traction and cushion. It's nice that you can lower the PSI on these for improved comfort. We've got the marks right here talking about 17 to 38 PSI. A lot of times on true fat bikes, you can go all the way down to 5, and you can run them tubeless and things and really get the kind of surface area you need to navigate sand. This is just gonna decrease deflection. It's gonna improve traction and, again, comfort. This is a hardtail that we're looking at, but we've got a decent suspension fork in the front. It's got lockout and rebound adjust. It's an air fork, so it's a little bit lighter. That's where you can make the adjustments. The overall weight on this bike is about 50.5 pounds, and it does come in 4 different sizes and this really unique color scheme, which to me looks like purpley, like that adjuster, that's blue. And then this is just a little bit different. And I was comparing this to some actual red highlights on other bikes, and these kind of look red. Same on the fork. But then there's this pink accent on the seat, just really unique, really fun. It's kind of like a rad bike, like cool looking. Definitely stands out to me. Maybe it'd be more appealing for guys who like extreme stuff, but maybe also a little bit girls. All the platforms are high step like this, so they don't have a step through. They're using the older battery style. It's this big brick thing that mounts on the down tube versus some of the 2017 and newer models that actually have an integrated battery pack. This one's slightly heavier. It's 7.1 pounds versus 6.9. Not a whole lot of difference, but it still has the same capacity. 36 volts, almost 17. They say 17, 16.75 amp hours. Plenty of capacity for going long distance. They use similar technology in some of their other bikes, the same size rating, but because this one might not roll as smoothly or efficiently, I downgraded a little bit in my ratings. I think okay, maybe 100 miles if you're on one of the lower assist levels, but if you're on a high assist and you're climbing and the terrain is soft, your results may vary. So keep that in mind. Still really awesome. Most of the other electric bikes I see out there, they either have 3610 amp hour or 13.4 is the new 500 watt hour Bosch pack. Bosch is similar to this in that it uses a mid-drive system, but we've got a larger sprocket here. So it's not spinning quite as fast. The Bosch sprocket rotates twice roughly for every pedal stroke, whereas this one is just much more like a standard bike chain. And you can see they've actually elevated here with this Exustar chain tensioner, maybe to just increase your clearance. There's a nice aluminum bash guard and a plastic scuff plate on the front. So it's designed to be a little bit more rugged. Decent component group, Shimano Dior. Got a 10-speed cassette in the rear, not too bad. Trigger shifters on the right, locking grips, tiny little Tektro, 2 or 1 finger brake levers up there, and they're hydraulic. We've got 180 millimeter rotors, Tektro Aruga, or maybe it's Ariga. Yeah, Ariga. I'm always trying to get the pronunciation right. Sorry if I'm a little off. 180 front and rear. 142 by 12 millimeter thru-axle on the rear and 15 millimeter floating thru-axle on the front. So quick release, easy to do trail maintenance, easy to take those off. And then again, about 7 pounds with the battery. Easy to put this in the back of your car, lay the handlebars down and just stuff it in. That's cool. It's nice to have something that's portable. And I do like that even though this battery isn't as integrated and you don't have room for bottle cage bosses, that the frame is more traditional because a lot of car racks let you hang this off the back of your car. Some of the newer Focus bikes where it does have the integrated battery, that triangle's a little bit smaller. So those are some of the trade-offs. I'm reviewing some of those separately, and you can kind of compare visually and check out the reviews, but you still get the low centered battery weight and motor weight. The motor here is 250 watts nominal. It's their EVO design, so it's like a 3rd generation. It says it offers 100 Newton meters of torque, which is pretty phenomenal. A lot of the older motors, it's like, well, hub motors that are 40 Newton meters, or you end up with a mid-drive that's like 60 up to 75, depending. So 100, that's a bold claim. I believe it. It's actually pretty powerful. It does produce a bit more noise. There's kind of like a rougher kind of sound. A little bit of the whine when you're at higher RPMs, like wee. It's not quite as responsive as I'm used to with like Bosch, again, smaller chainring. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just like a little smoother start and stop. The neat thing is you can actually do a lot of adjustments in the display settings to turn on climb assist, which basically says, hey, don't cut out the power even if I'm sort of easing off the torque. This measures wheel speed. You can see the magnet right here and the sensor. It measures pedal cadence and pedal torque. So you can say, hey, even if I'm letting off the torque, keep giving me power, because I'm going to be riding on, up and down terrain, and I don't want to lose that assistance. I want to have a consistent ride. It also has shift sensing, which is really nice, and it's physical shift sensing, where Bosch and some of the others are just software driven. I'll try to demonstrate that while we're riding. We'll see how it performs. It's just kind of nice, like definitely a little bit of an upgraded system. Focus is a German company, started by like a pro cross cyclist who, initially did bicycles and then got into electric and is really focused on quality. They assemble all their stuff in Germany. I was told that even some of their forks and stuff, they assemble it there. There's just that extra level of like attention to detail and that German engineering, and they're proud of that. And you can see over here on this side of the frame, it says, yeah, German engineered. There you go. I'm not sure if this kickstand is stock or not. I really like having a kickstand personally, and this one stays out of the way, so even if you're rolling the bike backwards, the pedals don't collide. There we go. We've got some concept plastic platform pedals. They actually work pretty well, and I prefer these over like the cheap cage ones just because you get more grip if you aren't going to replace them. Nice rims by Alex Rims. Schwabe Rocket Ron tires that say performance. I'm not sure if these have puncture protection or anything else, and I'm kind of hoping that there's not a lot of thorns out here today. But yeah, just a nice size, like larger, more cush. They're a little bit full right now, so I'm not getting the full like fat bike experience, but that's okay. They're going to be more efficient that way, roll a little bit faster. I believe this is like a 31.6 millimeter seat post, and a lot of times I'd be thinking about like, okay, I might want to use this to get to work during the week and maybe cut across some dirt trails on the way just for fun. And then on the weekends, use it as a mountain bike, like go have fun. This is class 1, so top speed 20 miles per hour. It's the most like permissible type of electric bike in the United States right now for riding on trails. And again, it's quiet and it blends in a bit. I like the stickers on the battery kind of blended in, but you start to notice, oh yeah, that's an electric bike. One thing that I feel like they missed here, at least for that use case, is rack bosses. I really like to add a rear rack because it's no fun, with a big backpack on, you're pedaling and it's heavy and stuff. Sure, I use a Camelback when I'm riding just for fun, but if I want to commute with this during the week, I can't add that rack, and that's a bummer. There's like a threaded eyelet down here and then some holes. You could potentially add a fender, but I don't think the front has. Oh, it does on this one. Sweet, yeah. So you could potentially add some fenders or something. It's just, I guess the way they set it up, it's mostly for having fun off-road, which is, it's fine. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview, pretty flat bar. One of the other things that I wanted to call out just from maybe an aesthetic / durability standpoint is that the display, look how tall it is right there. It's a pretty big plastic thing. It's even kind of thick, and while it's awesome that it has a micro USB port on the back for maybe charging your phone or your MP3 player, it's not removable. It does swivel easily, but it's kind of bulky. Even if you push it down, see like the wires on the back start to get pushed against the, I don't want to break it or anything, and they seem durable, but it's just a delicate part. And I've crashed on my bike. I've hit the front brakes and flipped it and laid it down, and this is a pretty vulnerable / probably expensive piece of hardware. So what some other companies have done, I think High Bike's done this with some of their S-Duro and X-Duro models, and maybe Bulls and some other like off-road e-bike companies, they've gone ahead and instead of using the traditional flat bars like we see here, which are about 28.75 inches, they've taken and said, okay, instead of like a 7-degree angle on the stem, we're gonna do negative, and then we're gonna put some riser bars. So the grips are like effectively in the same place, but you've got bars kind of at the height of the display, so if it goes upside down, the display doesn't get completely mashed. Like right now, it's stuck so high up that it's a little bit more vulnerable. So that's the physical question mark on the display, but the actual readouts and stuff are quite cool, so I'm gonna just jump into that. Before I do, I just wanna call out, they use the EnergyBus magnetic charger port here, so you can plug in, and if you trip over the cable, it just bumps it right out. It's not a big deal. It doesn't bend the pins or anything, and you can send information as well as electricity through here. One of the trade-offs is there's supposed to be a little like plastic cover that goes here magnetically, and they get lost pretty easily. This is a demo bike, and you know, it just must have gotten lost, set down at some point. It's really easy to misplace, and then no one knows what it is, and then you're left with this, you know, little smiley face pins instead of plastic. Okay, so the charger, I don't have it with me, but it weighs about 1.8 pounds, you know, and it's medium size, 3 amps, so it's a little bit faster, which is nice. But as far as bringing it with you, I just rely on the higher capacity battery. You really can get like 60 plus miles depending on the situation. Yes, I'm a lightweight rider, 135 pounds, but I talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, I've been riding it for a week, no problem. I'm up to like 50 miles and I've still got a quarter of the battery. And it's like, okay, that's pretty, you know, reassuring. I can't afford, just in terms of time and availability of these bikes, to ride every bike like 100 miles and see. So I welcome your input on the comments or whatever. Just, you know, say what you've experienced. Maybe help some other people with that question, because I know it comes up a lot. So anyway, you could bring the charger, but it's a little bulky. Let's turn the bike on. Now, what you might notice is like there's this cool little ring of, I guess it's like a button pad going on, and there's a power button at the top, and when I push it, like nothing happens. So I believe this is a 2-step process where you have to activate the battery down here, and then it comes on. It says hello, it starts to boot up. So it's a little bit, you know, there's kind of those 2 steps. It's nice when you can do everything from up here, but it's not a huge gripe. This is backlit, so at night you can see what you're touching, and you just kind of get used to the buttons by feel. And they seem really tough and waterproof, and they stay out of the way of the brake levers. It's a good design. Now we've got the display. It's actually backlit sort of all the time, but you can change those settings if you want to in the deeper menus. We've got a battery infographic going on, and instead of having little chunks, little bars, it's just very fine increments, like 1 pixel wide. And that's kind of cool. And printed right over the battery graphic is a number. So it says, hey, 12 miles. That's what it's estimating I can get for range right now, even though I'm on Ultra, which is the highest level of assist. I'm gonna go ahead and arrow down now to some of the other levels. Power, it says, okay, you know, 13 miles. Sport, 22 miles. So there's a big difference between Sport and Power, but Power and Ultra are close. Now we go down to Eco, you know, I think it's saying 30 miles. And keep in mind, we're at less than a third of the battery pack. So, you know, if you multiply 40 times 3, it's like, okay, yeah, you know, 120 miles, and that's what they estimate. So that's kind of cool. There's like a light bulb icon in the middle, which again, I feel like it takes up some extra space. And above it, there's a clock, and then there's a power meter right below the level of assist. And as you're pedaling, that thing kind of shows you like how hard the motor is working. There's speed, miles per hour, easy to change that to kilometers per hour if you want. And then all these readouts at the bottom. So if I click the set button here, it's gonna cycle through those readouts from trip max speed to trip average speed, tour to tour average speed, cadence, overall distance, I guess, trip time, and then trip distance, as well as trip max speed and trip average speed. And it circles, like it goes all around, so you can kind of leave it on what you're most interested in. I think you can completely turn it off too, which is nice down here. And then you can also adjust the top speed setting if you want. So while this is an up to 20 mile per hour bike, you don't have to go 20. You can be like, no, I want 15. Maybe you're in Europe somewhere where that's the legal limit, and you know, or there's a trail with certain specifications or whatever. It's just nice. You have full control here. To get to all those settings, you hold set, and it opens up this really deep menu with all these different trees. Like you can see your ride data, delete your data, and then go deeper into these other settings, device settings like display, the drive unit. So here I'm at the drive unit. I can change the wheel circumference, the top speed of the bike, the light reserve, shift sensor, climb assist. That's the stuff I was talking about earlier. There's even a rider profile. And beyond this display here, there's even an app that uses Bluetooth to communicate with the bike. I've used it a little bit, kind of messed around with it. It's really focused on GPS. So, you know, you've got your phone and it has an uplink and data and everything, and then the phone syncs with the display, so you can set up a route and then put that phone in your pocket, and the display helps you navigate, which is pretty cool. It's neat that you don't have to have it like mounted up here, that this works with you just in a little way. A lot of other apps that I see for electric bikes make you kind of, you know, like the app is all about the settings and it's all the stuff that the display doesn't do. And I feel like Focus has gone the other direction with their impulse units here and said, hey, we're going to give you access to everything with the display, and if you have a phone, if you want to download GPS, we'll just isolate that feature there. I feel like it's very cool. And you can share rides, so you could potentially like share your own ride with yourself and compete with yourself like a ghost, or you could share it with a friend and be like, meet me here are the directions. So it's kind of cool. There's a little bit of social. It's not overdone. I like it. I like it a lot. And then with the charging, that's cool too. So I think we're, this is a pretty comprehensive look at all the different features of this bike. Love that the cables are internally routed, tapered head tube right there. Just, all the stuff you'd expect and hope for in a plus size electric mountain bike. And now it's time for a ride. I may have mentioned it before, but it's actually $35.99 for this bike, which is fairly reasonable in my opinion. I mean, it's easy to start to get mixed up because there are other bikes that are starting to be in that 4,000 range with mid-drives that are full suspension, which is my preference for comfort. But hardtails, you get good traction, and I don't know, there's just sort of a preference for that sometimes. It would be a make or break deal for me with like those bosses. I just really would like to be able to commute with this. Thankfully, with the standard seat posts, you can add just a beam rack. It's not a huge deal, but the beam rack can get bumped side to side a little bit easier. Although it's easier to add it, and then take it off for trail riding. It's all personal preference. And again, I think it's cool that they went with a bold color choice here. This bike definitely stands out. It's really iconic to me. So I'm gonna go all the way up to Ultra Power. And I've noticed there's kind of this like gray behind the, it's interesting with the display. I had some mixed feelings about it, but the overall use has been good. I'm gonna do Ultra just because it's fun. You can hear the motor and see how responsive it is. Okay, so I'm riding in the dirt. Whoa boy, really bucks. You see how there was a little bit of delay when I stopped pedaling there? It just sort of, it kept going. I'm in a high RPM mode right now, like I'm in a low gear, basically. So if I shift up, we can kind of see how it performs a little bit differently. And while I do this, look for that shift sensing. Try to listen for the motor. But hopefully you could hear that. To me, it was very clear that the motor was like fully stopping while I shifted. And that's very satisfying because you don't want to have the motor and you pushing hard on that chain and those sprockets. It's just, that's a problem waiting to happen. So I'm gonna start out in a lower level of assist. I'm gonna shift through the gears, and then I'm gonna go to a higher level so you can just listen for the feedback, the sound it makes, and also for that shift sensing. Well, it's definitely a solid feeling, responsive drive system, especially with the shift sensing. That's awesome. Let's do this again. I'm just gonna take it back up here onto the street, some smooth riding. Oh yeah. Feeling pretty good. It's like we picked up some sticks. And I've hit the 20 mile per hour top speed, so the motor just kind of fades out, which is nice. Let's try to find a quieter place here. There we go. So let's do that motor test once more. You can see it keeps spinning, right, even after I've stopped pedaling. And there are no motor inhibitors on the brakes or anything, so there is the potential for a little bit of surge, like beyond maybe what you want. And if you're on a mountain trail where, you know, precision riding is happening, that could be a question mark. You might want to ride in a lower level of assist. But it's not too difficult with those, you know, hydraulic disc brakes. They work pretty well. Well, there we go. That's the Focus Jarifa Fat. Got most of the details in there for you. For the full write-up on this, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, sound off with your comments. I'll see you for the next ride, and ride safe.